Could Saquon Barkley be sitting out the 2023 NFL season? We're going to break it down in today's show. We're going to go over all the quotes that Barkley had when he sat down with the media at a youth camp that he held over the weekend. We're going to talk about what he had to say, and he seemed frustrated about his future with the New York Giants. He kept on alluding to the fact that he doesn't want to be the highest paid running back in the NFL, but he wants respect. So we're going to talk about it. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. We'd appreciate it if you could share this video to all of your Giants friends out there. The way you can do that is by clicking the share button down below. Select the Twitter icon. And if you click and post to Twitter and tag me at @MarshallGreen_, I'm going to give you a retweet, I'm going to give you a follow back, and I'll give you a shout out here on the channel later on in the week. The reason we're doing this is we're 30 subscribers away from getting to 29,000 subs. So tell a friend to subscribe and share today's show. All right, this is what Barkley had to say. We got a whole bunch of quotes that we will go through. Barkley was asked about sitting out the 2023 season if a deal does not get done and if he's going to play on the franchise tag. And he said, I think that's a conversation. Like you said, that's a card I could play. That comes up in conversations if something doesn't get done by the July 17th deadline. And we got a little bit of time in between there. So when that date comes, then I'll have to sit down with my team and my family and make decisions. See what's going on and what we're going to do. What's the game plan? What's the next move? For me, it's like we got until July 17th. They can say what they want. We can say what we want. Just one day at a time. One day at a time. Now, that day does come up, and I have to sit down and have that conversation. Then I will sit down and have that conversation. We'll see what's the best plan for me to do. And it's only the right decision for Saquon Barkley and his camp and his, I would say, negotiating tactics to use that as a card. And I think this could get ugly as we get closer and closer to that July 17th deadline. What really motivation do the Giants have to get a deal done? They've offered Saquon Barkley, according to reports, which we'll talk about coming up in a second, contract after contract after contract that he is turned down. If he's trying to get back any sort of leverage, he's got to use the card and say, hey, look, I'm not playing on the tag, and if we don't get a deal done, I'm not going to play for the New York Giants this season. That's the right move to play. But you can call BS and CBS when you see it. Saquon Barkley is not sitting out football games this season. Saquon Barkley is a really smart and calculated man. He wants to be remembered as a Giant. He cares about his legacy. And sitting out a season not only would hurt his bank account and ruin the opportunity to get $10.1 million guaranteed. Guaranteed. It's also going to ruin his legacy. He's going to be known as the guy, just like Le'Veon Bell, that sat out a football season. That's just not going to happen. But I'm also not confident a deal gets done. If I had to make my prediction, I would say that Saquon Barkley ends up playing on that $10.1 million franchise tag for this season. I just don't see a way where the Giants have offered 3, 4 deals at this point, and Barkley has said none. Barkley did push back and say all the reported details of that contract are not true, and we'll talk about that coming up around the corner. But I want to get you guys involved down in the comment section early on in today's video. Does a long-term deal get done for Saquon Barkley? Do he and the Giants ink a contract for multiple years at this point? Type Y for yes, type N for no. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, let me know. Does a long-term deal with Barkley get done? Saquon Barkley is using every negotiating tactic in the book, and as he should. If he's not going to do it for himself, nobody else is going to do it. He's trying to get the leverage back on his side, and I just don't know if there is any leverage for him to stand on, because the Giants, unfortunately, with the way the CBA is currently written up, they have every bit of leverage on their side. And it stinks, right? Because they own the rights to Saquon Barkley. That's why they can use the franchise tag. That's why they did use the franchise tag. Because paying a running back a multi-year contract after their rookie deal, especially one that's already gone on for 5 years, is risky. And it, unfortunately, does not look all that good for Saquon Barkley. I do want to go through this timeline right here, which is all reported, not factual, just reports. And Barkley actually pushed back on the fact that he was offered a deal during the regular season of $12.5 million per year. And then a deal after the season of $13 million per year. And then before being franchise tag, reports came out that he was offered a deal of $14 million per year. But notice, all these figures that have been reported are average annual value. None of them are guaranteed money, and that's what Saquon Barkley pretty much said is BS. Barkley said this on the reports of the reported contracts and the money that the New York Giants are offering. He says, it's misleading for sure. For those reports to come out and try to make me look like I'm greedy or whatever, that's not even close to being the truth. This one really hit home for me. He said, we say family business is family business in that facility, in that building, and I'm going to stick to that. The thing I'm frustrated most about is, like how I said, family business is family business, and then sources come out and stories get leaked and it didn't come out from me. I feel like it's trying to paint a narrative of me. A picture of me that's not even the truth. It's not even close to being true. At the end of the day, it's all about respect. That is really what it is. And I feel bad for Saquon Barkley, because if Saquon Barkley came out and, talked about the deals that the Giants gave him, he would be in the same camp that he just called the Giants. Pretty much liars and not being about what they talk about in those meetings. The Giants, for so long, have been an organization run by family. And this is the first time they hired a general manager outside of those family confines in Joe Schoen. And I'm sure Joe Schoen doesn't like that these reports have been linked. Or maybe he does. But he's got a job to do. And his job is to put the best football field on the team that wears blue and white and has New York and Giants across the chest. Not do what's best for Saquon Barkley in his future. We're the New York Giants. We're not the New York Saquon Barkleys. And Joe Schoen knows that paying a running back can and is risky. There's a reason that Dalvin Cook was just released by the Minnesota Vikings. There's a reason that Aaron Jones had to take a $5 million pay cut this year to stay with the Green Bay Packers. There is a reason that the Dallas Cowboys cut Ezekiel Elliott. There is a reason that nobody in the NFL that had an opportunity to pay a running back this offseason did so. Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. They were all franchise tag. And Saquon brought that up. He said, everyone talks about the market, but there was no market because Pollard, Jacobs, and himself were all franchise tag. But what I would say to you is, if there's 3 teams that think that's the best option, that tells me that no team wanted to pay more than just $10 million. But I don't think it's all about per year average annual value. And I honestly don't think it's about that at all. I think it's about the guaranteed money at signing. That's what's really the hang up for Saquon Barkley. So here are what his colleagues are making. The running back that got paid the most guaranteed money at signing was Christian McCaffrey at $30 million. Derrick Henry, $25.5. But what about that? Bijan Robinson, the 3rd highest paid running back based on guaranteed money at signing. What does that tell you? Nobody wants to pay a running back because Alvin Kamara got paid less and Nick Chubb got paid less. The only reason Bijan Robinson got that money is because in the NFL draft, your first contract is based on the slot you were picked, not the position. And there's a reason why nobody likes to take running backs inside the top 10. Let's shift from money, though, to play on the field because I don't think what Saquon Barkley said was all fair. He pretty much claimed credit for being the Giants' offense. And at times, he was. But we'd be lying if I didn't tell you the facts that Saquon Barkley wore down over the regular season. When you look at the raw stats for Saquon Barkley, they're incredible, right? Over 1,300 yards, another 300 through the air, 1,600 total, 4.4 yards per carry, and 10 touchdowns. But after week 9, where Saquon Barkley had 35 carries for 152 yards against the Houston Texans, Saquon Barkley did not go over 90 yards rushing for the rest of the season. And that includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In the final 9 games of the season, Saquon Barkley did not go over 90 yards. And in the playoffs, let's be honest, Saquon Barkley wasn't the focal point of this offense. He had just 9 carries in both of those games. Did he have 2 touchdowns? Yes. Did he have a really nice touchdown run against the Minnesota Vikings? Yes. But was he touched? No. I think a lot of running backs in the NFL could have ran that touchdown in running right behind John Feliciano up the left side. He was good in the playoffs, right? But was he irreplaceable? I don't think that to be true whatsoever. And when you talk about Saquon Barkley wearing down, the evidence is so apparent. He even got phased out of the offense a little bit. Because after that game against the Houston Texans in Week 9, he never got more than 18 carries in a game. And like we said, he never went over 87 yards. But in the first 9 games, he was electric, right? He had 100 yards against the Tennessee Titans. He had 100 yards against the Chicago Bears. He had 100 yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had 198 carries for 931 yards in the first 9 games. But his yards per carry was 4.7, and in the final 9, it went down to 4.3. But it's not just the raw numbers. It's not just yards per carry that showed you that Saquon Barkley became less of an impact as that season went on. The first 9 games of the year, he averaged 93 yards per game. That went down to 61.9. He had 30 broken tackles in that first 9 games. He had 11 in the last 9. He had 23 runs of 10-plus yards in the first 9 games. That was cut in half to 12 in the last 9. And you see that theme go on. 15-plus yard runs, 14-7. 30-plus yard runs, 3-1. What about that run in the playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles where he broke through and he got caught from behind? Young Saquon Barkley, 2018 Saquon Barkley, he ain't getting caught from behind. And that's okay. That's the nature of a running back. These running backs, they get better and better and better, then they plateau, then they fall off a cliff. And I'm not saying Saquon Barkley is going to fall off a cliff, but you pay someone for what they will do in future years for a contract, not what they have done. And Saquon Barkley has done a lot for the New York Giants. I own his jersey. I bought his jersey the day he was drafted. He's been one of my favorite players for a long time. But I'm going to support the name on the front of the jersey than on the back. And I know Saquon Barkley wants to be here. But I got to say it. Joe Schoen is handling this contract situation beautifully. There is no reason to rush to get a deal done. Saquon Barkley's a captain. He knows everybody on that football team. He had a camp yesterday with a whole bunch of kids, and almost every prominent New York Giant was there. He is loved in that locker room. He doesn't need to be there at OTAs. He doesn't need to be there at minicamp. He doesn't need to be there at training camp. And if the Giants were to have paid Saquon Barkley a lot of money, would you have Bobby Okereke? Would you have Darren Waller? Would you have A'Shawn Robinson, Raheem Nunez-Roches? How are you going to re-sign Andrew Thomas? What about Xavier McKinney? What about when Azeez Ojulari's contract's up in 2 years? You got to factor all of that in, and Joe Schoen is. He is doing what is best for the New York Giants. And the Giants are at their best when Saquon Barkley's on the field and he's playing. You just got to factor in, is he worth top tier number 2? Because he said he doesn't want to be the highest paid running back in the league, but I'm sure he wants to be the second highest paid back in the league. I'm going to be honest. I would see what Saquon Barkley's trade value is, and I'm sure Joe Schoen has already had calls with multiple teams because he is going to do the best, what is best for the New York Giants, not the New York Saquon Barkley. So I want to ask you this question to close out today's show. What to do with Saquon Barkley? Should they keep him on the franchise tag? Should they give him that extension? Or should they trade them? Joe Schoen has 3 cards to play right now, and he's going to have to use one here pretty damn soon. What would you do if you were Joe Schoen with Saquon Barkley? I appreciate everybody, as always, for tuning in to New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I don't want it to be misconstrued. I love Saquon, and I know the Giants are at their best when Saquon's on the field, but the Giants can still be a good football team without Saquon Barkley. He had 9 carries in the playoff game. I don't want to just say it's all Saquon Barkley like he did. So we're going to find out. July 17th, we're going to know if he's playing on the franchise tag or an extension happens. Give me a follow over on Twitter. That'll be the first place you hear about any Saquon news or rumors.